It is the Sickest show with Nick Perro, and I am graciously hosted by my co-host today, Melissa Corrigan. She is a fellow veteran. She also is the author of Counterstory Media, Pink Hair and Pronouns, Does She Shut Up, and Banner and Backbone. And so welcome, Melissa. And we are welcomed especially today by a return friend of ours from our Vet Talk series is retired Navy Commander Bobby Jones of the Valor Media Network. He is an advocate. He is an ally to us, and he is an incredibly powerful voice in this community. And we're honored to have you on with us today. Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for inviting me back. I'm glad I didn't wear out my welcome the first time. So we'll just go with that.
Wear out your
welcome.
welcome.
Hard to do around here.
No, not at all. Oh, there we go. Now we're live on Substack too on my computer, which means I can pop links if I need to. But we opened this morning with talking about JD Vance and how our vice president has taken it upon himself to take, how many vacations was it, Melissa?
Eight
vacations since in 8 months. Not even in less than 8 months. He's taken more vacations than there have been months in his term of office. So just let that sink in on the American taxpayer dollar while they take away our healthcare, our freedoms, our rights. They invade our streets and politicize our armed forces, which is actually the title of today's episode, because that's a huge part of all of this. And one of the reasons I asked Bobby back on and Melissa on was we're getting politicized in a way that is inappropriate, unacceptable, and against everything that our country stands for and was founded on. George Washington laid down his sword to become the commander-in-chief so that the military remained apolitical. And now Donald Trump has picked up a weak dildo of a saber and is swinging it around, and he's calling it JD Vance. So welcome, sir.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. There's just a couple of things I want to point out with what we're seeing. So while the headlines that you're seeing specifically focuses on the National Guard and the deployment to D.C., what has happened here in the last 72 hours confirms what I've always thought. All right. So number one, yes, the National Guard, D.C., federal city, loophole to do this. It's dicey, but it's still a loophole that's technically legal. He has to go to Congress when they come back in session to get an extension because that's what he wants. But here's the thing. He's already mentioned Baltimore, Chicago, L.A., other cities that he wants to do this in. That's expected, to be honest. It's going to be a hell of a lot harder because they have governors in those states, and the governors are the commander-in-chiefs of their National Guards, etc. But there's a couple of things that have happened. Number one, governors who have nothing to do with this, West Virginia, South Carolina, have volunteered their National Guard to go to D.C., right? So we're seeing this alignment of basically a separate chain of command that's being instituted. Now, when you look at what they're using the military to do, the active duty force to include, active duty and National Guard, what I see is a blatant circumvention of United States Congress because the War Powers Act, everything like that, he has to notify Congress if he uses the active duty military. He's trying to circumvent that. On top of that, the overarching theme of using the United States military to do domestic law enforcement and just law enforcement in general has continued. The Navy is now deployed the Iwo Jima Amphibious Raiding Group, the YARD, in 4th Fleet, which is the Caribbean, Southern Caribbean, to deal with drug traffickers. That is a job that we have this thing that used to be called the Cutter Revenue Service. You know it today as the Coast Guard. That has been doing that since their institution, since they were created in the late 1700s, right? This here is putting the active duty military into a law enforcement role because then President Trump can directly control it. There is no Department of Homeland Security that you have to go through, and there are no processes that Congress has to deal with. He has a direct saying on how law enforcement goes down, both in the United States using the military and abroad using the military. And the thing people need to understand, the reason the Coast Guard is supposed to do those actions is because if a U.S. Navy ship boards those things, it could be seen as a declaration of war. That is why we have a Coast Guard, and this is why we have a Navy. It's a legality issue that happens at the international level. This ain't just about what's happening in the borders of the United States. This is an international thing that he's basically going to test the world on, because if you're Venezuela and he boards merchant vessels that we, quote, believe have drugs or whatever, and let's say they don't, you got a problem. Even if they do, you have a problem if it's not Coast Guard or sanctioned military that have trained for it, has permission to do it, etc. So what we're seeing is this pushing of boundaries. So we have a more centralized chain of command around one person. That one person is President Trump, but is being executed by the man who I cannot stand. I will die on this hill, Pete Hegseth, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in American history. Okay, so when you factor all of what you're seeing, right, what you see on the streets in D.C., what he's threatening to do in Baltimore and Philly and all these other democratically controlled cities, but none of the cities he's targeting is in Republican red states like Birmingham, Tulsa, these places that have higher crime rates. When you see that, and then now you couple the movement of 4,500 sailors and Marines into the Caribbean, what you have is a strategic movement towards a centralized chain of command that is doing everything it can to escape accountability from the body that is supposed to deal with, Congress, and to use a military to intimidate and centrally organize against a threat that does not exist, because you want the occupying force, the visuals of power like a dictator. And meanwhile, we're still waiting on the Epstein files because it's all a distraction.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great introduction. Welcome.
Yeah, that's what we're dealing with.
That's what we're doing right now, because Melissa, I'm going to give you the floor here in a second to ask away. Is we're dealing with one, they haven't released the Epstein files, and the Epstein files that they did release on Friday, they released 1% new information out of
Bingo.
all of it. The rest of it, we already know was already in the public sphere. So we're going to get back to that, maybe, because there's a lot that we got to talk about. And I really want to talk about the militarization or the politicization of the armed forces, specifically with the National Guard, and which maybe can we address like which governors are doing this, where they're from, and which governors have said no to this, because I'm very proud of my small state where I was birthed in, which is the state of Vermont, with Governor Phil Scott saying, no, come back to me when there's a real emergency. And I think we need to acknowledge when Republicans are doing the right thing, because he's acting patriotically and pro-constitutionally, and that is the right thing to do. Can you talk on that a little bit? And then Melissa?
Yeah. I mean, so there are governors now have to draw lines in the sand. Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Vermont, Phil Scott, Maine's governor, who has just blatantly told Trump to his face, I'll see you in court. I mean, I was like, go ahead, do your thing, because she understands what's happening. My state, Brian Kemp, interesting enough, Trump hates Brian Kemp. He thinks Brian Kemp cost him the 2020 election, because he's like, we're not going to go just make up 11,740 votes for you to get reelected, period. You know, it was almost like it was the attitude you expect Texas to have, because, don't mess with Texas, except Texas has rolled over and showed their underbelly from a power standpoint in Abbott. Right. But Kemp has said, look, we will support things that have to do with securing the border. Now, it's interesting. His verbiage is key, because there's two things happening. Right. D.C., the occupation is not based on illegal immigration. They say it's crime, right? But the National Guard that's going to D.C. is dealing with that. But Trump has already said he's going to ask for National Guards to deal with border security, right? To me, that is the gateway drug, because Georgia is one of 16 states that have been targeted to have National Guard activated to do ICE activities, to support ICE. But it is not a stretch to see them go from supporting ICE to doing local law enforcement things like drug task force, et cetera, et cetera. Why do I say that? Because it's already happened in New Mexico. They've already done it. They deployed those Marines to California, and there was a small contingent that went to Texas and New Mexico. And next thing you know, they're helping the DEA with drug raids. And everybody's like, how's that possible? That was not approved. That's not legal. But they did it. And when it was found out, they quietly pulled those troops back, right? And so understand, it's not even the cause of why he's trying to send these people. It's just getting them on ground in areas that he does not like, right? Which are typically big cities, regardless of state, but having National Guard troops there, regardless of what their activity is, to project the power, to have the visibility, to create the chaos, and most importantly, to embed fear into the people walking their streets, right? That is what this is about. It's about control. And when you can have control, when you can have the visuals of ICE agents just, locking down people, overwhelmingly people of color, you would think they try to balance it out just for the optics. They're not, right? You do this. And so everybody is outraged and focused on that, and they're, up in arms, blah, 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 but you're not talking about Epstein and the files. You're not talking about the central primary promise you made in the 2024 election to release everything. And the only thing you've released are the files that deal with the black guy, Martin Luther King Jr. You haven't did it for JFK. You haven't done it for RFK. You got his son in your cabinet. You still ain't released it. And you sure as heck hadn't done it for Jeffrey Epstein. And then what you do is, like you said, 1% of the stuff that was released on Friday out of the 10,000 pages was already out there, right? You release Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony because she's not complicit whatsoever, already convicted. You've already moved her to a plush prison to keep her quiet. And then she's just like, oh, yeah, I never saw him do anything wrong. Because she knows what you want. That's why his personal lawyer went there. So all of this is to do two things, in my humble opinion, from a strategic standpoint: to intimidate any voices of dissent on the grounds of America, to include going after NBC and ABC's FCC license all of a sudden, which came out this weekend because they had commentary that don't like them, and to completely change the narrative. He's tried everything. He's met with Putin. He's met with Zelensky. He's done all of these, met with Europe, EU. He's met and done all these things, but the Epstein file thing is still there. And here's why, my last point on this is happening because Congress is getting ready to come back in session. And you have a bipartisan committee who is saying, hey, dude, we are going to subpoena everything. Period. And he's trying to hold those walls at bay because Pam Bondi's already told him he is the number one name in those files. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with misinformation at an epic level to protect one person. The people in the streets, the thousands of people deployed, the sailors going down to Venezuela, all of this is to protect one person, people.
You know what it is? It's reality TV.
Bingo.
This
You know what it
motherfucker,
really
this
is?
motherfucker has turned
Fucking
America
eagle jizz.
into his personal reality television show, because that is the only thing that orange turd has ever been remotely good at is reality TV, because everything about him is fake. His projection of masculinity is fake. His projection of being a competent businessman, fake. His projection of being a father and husband, fake. He's just fake, and the only thing he knows how to do is to construct fake drama and hysteria, which is reality television. That's 100% of this is making America into a huge reality TV show.
I don't think you can put it any more perfect than that. When you look at it from a scripting standpoint, it's like a bad episode of Love Island. I mean, you literally cannot make what's happening up. And here's the thing that should terrify everybody. In his effort to do what he knows best, like you said, create reality TV, the long-term damage to the nation, the long-term damage domestically and internationally to the nation. I would be just as upset, and I've said this time and time again, if Democrats were doing this, I would be livid because over the last 80 years, we're talking 80 years since the end of World War II this year, right? Understand something, people. We've had Democrats and Republicans, about half and half since then. But the policy of every commander-in-chief, boiled down to its simplest, is, hey, I'm going to do what I think is best to not only protect America, but to have it flourish. Different philosophies, but that was the thing. And then the other piece is to be the leader of the free world, to create alliances that secure democracy abroad. That has always been the thing. I don't care if you were Bush, Obama, Eisenhower, Johnson, Kennedy, it doesn't matter. That was the central thing. And now the departure that we're seeing for the first time since the end of World War II is this man who's like, I want to go meet with the dictators. He's met with Kim. He's met with Xi. He's met with Putin. He's met with those big three, right? More than he's seen Zelensky in person. Okay. More than he's met with the EU head in person. Okay. More than he's met with the goddamn UK prime minister in person since he came back in the second time. When you show me your time and your budget, I will show you your priorities. And if you look at his time spent, he's spending it with the literal adversaries of the United States. And his budget has been aligned to persecute many people within the United States border, many who are here legally, many who are citizens, while killing foreign aid to people who have relied on America, who have been our closest allies, who have gone to war with America and died for America. That is what I'm seeing.
And
tell me why I'm wrong.
Not only that, there's even a self-serving aspect to this. When you talk about agencies like USAID, and this is how you know this guy knows nothing about military strategy or defense strategy whatsoever. Agencies like USAID are called soft presence. It's so you don't have to have a hard presence. So you don't have a military base there. So you have a USAID office. And yes, it serves a philanthropic purpose. It serves a humanitarian purpose. But hello, America's always going to look out for ourselves as well. And it serves the purpose of having a soft presence in a fragile region. And now every single place where we had that soft presence is going to be filled by China. Every single one.
And they're proactively doing it. Doing it because they're like, I cannot believe they're giving this to us on a platter. Now, again, this is a guy, I was in Africa as a UN peacekeeper in Liberia for a year. And I'm telling you right now, the most powerful tool that we had. So Muslim extremists did not overtake the country for any other organization because the Chinese were there building roads free was our USAID boxes. That, hey, here's food, here's bandages, here's medical supplies. And on every box, you had an American flag with USAID on it. And I'm telling you, Liberia thought they were the 51st state because of it, because of that direct aid, which is a lot cheaper, a lot easier than sending, I don't know, a special warfare platoon down there to deal with some threat. You know why? Because the Liberians would come and tell Americans, hey, man, these guys over here trying to do this. You see what I'm saying? And he doesn't understand because his transactional nature does not understand intrinsic value.
Right.
It's that simple. It's that simple. And so what we as America have to deal with, if you're an American and if you have not traveled abroad since January 20th of this year, you don't know. But people who've gone abroad, vacation, for work and stuff, all of them are coming back saying, man, they look at us different. They keep asking, what's wrong with y'all? Why did you do this? Et cetera, et cetera. I have traveled abroad. I'm just like, this is not good. And it's going to take us years to rebuild that. I remember after the Bush administration, when Obama came in, it was like, oh, he's going to have to rebuild alliances. And we thought, just because a few countries were mad at us, this is a cake. I mean, that was a cakewalk compared to this. This is going to take a generation of political leadership to rebuild. And it's only been 7 months. That's amazing to me. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think the amazing part is we literally gave up all power that we
Mm-hmm.
actually had around the
Yeah.
world that was true power, because military power, hard power is last resort.
Yep.
Like soft power is power. So like let's look at that internally. Like what have we given up in terms of soft power? Can you talk about things that you think we've given up as Americans in terms of internal soft power because of the effects of these things?
Yeah, I mean, we can. So here's a couple of things. You know, we look at national security, and I did this on my Lincoln Square live stream a couple of weeks ago. And this term called DIME, military officers are taught diplomacy, informational, military, economic, and in every last one of those four major categories, we have conceded power. First of all, diplomatically, when you do not see the value in not only the United Nations, so you send a dude that you just fired from as your national security advisor, and what's his face, Michael Waltz, and because of Signalgate, your answer is to send him to the UN as ambassador. You immediately tell the world, you don't take this seriously. You don't take this seriously. You're on the UN Security Council. Why should we listen to you? Okay. Just that move alone shows we're not taking it serious. And then every international goddamn movement, from the World Health Organization to UNICEF with children, you know, the Children's Fund, we have withdrawn. We have withdrawn. We don't believe in the WHO's assessment. We don't believe in the world's climate change policy that the world scientists have agreed on. And understand, it's hard for the world to agree on anything. We've pulled back. We've pulled back. Then when you look at informational, right, the things that come out of the White House press briefing is so ridiculously skewed that if you want an intelligent breakdown of what you're seeing, we as Americans have to go to foreign news sources, the BBC, DW, the Australian Broadcast Company, outside of our own borders to get objectivity. Because, hey, the other piece of this is, if you do dare to tell the truth in your ABC, CNN, CBS, whoever, you're going to get sued or prosecuted, because the Department of Justice office is not about Department of Justice. It's about being the retributional arm to President Trump. Okay, so that's informational. Militarily, we have gone out of our way to destroy, and I mean destroy, our most prominent alliance in NATO, right? Because Trump is like, they didn't pay for it, da-da-da. We've talked about this. These people have paid for it in blood. Article 5 has been only implemented once, and that was after 9/11, and we had Europeans dying with us in Afghanistan and Iraq, period. End of discussion. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, but he would not understand that because it's all about transactional money to him. Okay, and then when we go around the world, we send Pete Hegseth over to freaking Southeast Asia, and the man didn't even know what ASEAN was and what they were supposed to do, and goes over there and shows his whole complete ass talking to them because he doesn't know. This is coming from a guy who spent half his Navy career in 7th Fleet out of Japan. Okay, so I'm just like, this is who you sent. So you have destroyed alliances in 6 months. Okay, and then go and bomb Iran with no plan as to the fallout, the ceasefire, how that's supposed to play out. And then finally, economically, small businesses are hurting. Big businesses are scared because the tariffs and these wars that he started, these trade wars. I had Dr. Charles Ballard on my show, Professor Emeritus at Michigan State University in economics. And he's like, businesses cannot plan because they don't know what tariffs are going to be today, tomorrow, or in the future. And so you cannot buy supplies. You cannot import supplies. You cannot import products needed for you to create things. Ford has had ridiculous losses because the parts they import to build their cars in America for American jobs have skyrocketed. They can't predict the market. And now the rest of the big three are in the same boat. So when we look at the economics of this, Trump is wanting the Fed to drop interest rates because things are going up in price. Well, if the Fed does that, welcome to inflation. And here we go into a recession and possibly a depression, all self-imposed. All self-imposed. So from the major four things I mentioned, diplomacy, informational, military, and economics, we are failing across the board. And the direct result is Americans that live here are going to suffer. Your healthcare is going up. The price of your groceries going up. The price of your gas will be up here once the summer's over. Just watch. All of this takes about a quarter to kick in, for the markets to really see what's happening. And we're going to see it. And who's he going to blame? I don't know. But it's all their fault because these are policies.
Biden. He still blames Biden and
Yeah.
Obama for everything.
Absolutely, and Clinton. Don't worry, Clinton's in there too, because we've been talking about the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff, and that's a separate conversation. Melissa, go ahead.
But I think there's something also to strictly visuals when it comes to the military. Now, I'm a feminist, and I'm not going to get into, masculine imaging or whatever. He's a moron at the head of our military, okay?
Yeah.
And on an international stage, we are looking like a joke because of him. My husband and I were both enlisted. We were just talking about this yesterday with the whole pull-up thing and his insistence on working out with generals. Don't work out with people. Generals work behind the scenes. They are elevated. There is a reason there is a distance between the officer class and the enlisted class, and it is in everyone's best interest that is preserved.
Yeah.
And so that's number one. Is his complete lack of military decorum is literally embarrassing. And then number two, they are deploying the National Guard onto our streets without proper training. So you're getting two different kind of videos coming out of this situation in LA and in DC. You're either getting really sensational videos of National Guardsmen being violent towards citizens, or you are getting videos of National Guardsmen looking stupid, wandering around, out of regs. They don't know what they're doing there. Most of them don't want to be there. And it's not just America watching these videos. The whole world is watching. They are watching our National Guardsmen be sicked on our own people, and these guys don't know what to do and sometimes react out of fear, overwhelm, lack of training. And when they do have these violent incidents with civilians, of course, those videos are the ones, because that fits his narrative that there's some kind of war going on the street. So he pushes those videos that fit his narrative. Civilians are pushing videos of National Guardsmen wandering, sleeping, napping, whatever. But the overall image that you're getting is that our military is incredibly weak, unprepared, and led by a fool.
Right. No, Melissa, I damn, that's the most succinct way I've heard it put here. And you highlight a couple of things that I don't think the average American public realizes. The United States military is not a peacekeeping force. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. The United States military is not a peacekeeping force. When I became a UN peacekeeper, I had to go through 6 months of separate training to deal with exactly what you just highlighted, Melissa. They were like, you got to go over here and do this. And I'm like, where am I going? So I could wear this blue beret in Africa. Why? Because as I was told my first year at the Naval Academy, the United States military kills people and breaks things on behalf of the United States, period. It's that simple. It's that simple. And so when you take that and now all of a sudden you want us to police American citizens on American soil, no training, couple of PowerPoint slides, blah, blah. Now, over the weekend, they're issuing the National Guard weapons. See, that slow escalation. Let's back up 1 second and just tell people, when you think this stuff doesn't matter, this and that, let's begin with what they started. They said they're going to use the National Guard to go after deportation of illegal immigrant criminals. Then it changed from illegal criminals to illegal immigrants, period. Then it went from, okay, those that are here on legal status but have not completed the process. That was the next step. They're literally showing up as scheduled at their green card hearings and they're getting hauled off. No legal violation, just hauled off. Now we've gone from that into we're going after the vagrants and the homeless in D.C., even though some of them, many of them, mental issues, many of them veterans that are homeless because of the mental issues. We're going to go after them and the criminals who are all, by the way, American citizens. We're going to just take them and you don't know where they're going. And so you see this escalation from going after the worst of the illegal immigrants to now vagrant homeless veterans in Washington, D.C.
It's
in a
almost like
period
there's
of
a
6
poem
months.
about this where they started with the socialists.
Yep. And I said
nobody-
nothing. And I said nothing. And they
Written
keep
by a
walking
Nazi
down.
too.
Right. And we are here at this point, and everybody's like, oh, you know, the liberal tills. First of all, look at me. Do I look like a damn liberal? You know what I'm saying? Are you serious? But here's the thing. I have traveled the entire planet. I've been to every continent with the exception of Antarctica, and I have seen these things, right? And if you see a slow escalation of for no other purpose, martial law without any declaration of emergency, where you are suspending people's rights, because no matter what these people tell you, when they go and grab someone off the street and there is no arrest warrant presented, that is illegal. And ICE is over there. We don't have to show a warrant. Since when? Since when? You know what I'm saying? You just can't abduct people off the street. And how many times now are we seeing, because they don't have that paperwork, mistaken identity, you know, and they release them back into the wild in their minds, right? Only to circle back and try to find a reason that they arrested people. All of this is happening in real time. Real time. And for those who are not scared or those who don't see a reason to be concerned, it's because it hasn't affected you yet. But it always does.
So with that being said, because there was a comment on, somebody made it, is wait till they come into Philly. And one of the things that we always talk about is peaceful and patriotic. Peacefully and patriotically. Like, nope.
Yeah.
Violence is always the last thing. What do we do though because people are I'm a concerned citizen and I live in Arkansas. Like, I live where they're not at, and specifically not at because it's a very white area and they're not going to piss off their base and they're going to silently come in and take people. What happens though when it does reach the point where either a false flag event happens because a domestic terrorist that is on the right-wing side or libertarian wing within the Boogaloo Boys and that sort of thing comes out of the woodwork? What do we do? What do you recommend for people to do then?
Well, I will say, this is unique. We've never seen something like this before in American history. However, we have seen the government go out of their way to oppress a certain group. The difference here between now and, say, the civil rights movement, the women's suffrage movement, all these movements that have had to take place out of necessity to form the more perfect union, is social media is a powerful tool. We now have phones that have cameras in 4K, right? The first thing I would tell everybody to do is not just record, live stream. If you have Facebook, Instagram, live stream it, because A, it's going to be recorded anyway, but B, you may be in a situation where you may not be able to send that recording. They'll confiscate your phone, et cetera, et cetera. And why am I saying this? Because once things go out raw, live, and unedited, there's a couple things. One, you cannot question the authenticity, right? But two, others will be able to pick that up. Lawyers, advocates will be able to take that video and be like, this is ridiculous. Now, here's the other piece. We need that kind of stuff to hammer the one group that is supposed to check all this, and that's Congress. Okay? If you have noticed, all of the town halls that have happened since Trump has come back in office, specifically since the big, beautiful bill was passed, have been overwhelmingly hostile to the Republican Party. Overwhelmingly. And again, we're talking about areas that are red. Nebraska. You know what I'm saying? These places where people are upset. That is the second thing. If you are not calling your congressman once a week at this point, where they know who you are, and ask the question, what are you doing? If you are not going to his town hall or her town hall, right, you got a problem. You don't really care about what's happening. You're concerned, but you don't care. Two different things. Susan Collins has been concerned about everything in Maine since 1990 something, and it's done nothing for that state, right? But when you care, you then add action. to the concern. And the thing that I think that the current administration is relying on is inaction by Congress, inaction by citizens, inactions by companies. And that's the other thing. They are so, their totalitarian mindset is so ingrained that they go after businesses specifically. They're using the SEC, the FCC to go after businesses that they feel like are not towing the line. They're going after universities that they feel like are not towing the line. They're going after any and everything that they can. Meanwhile, they're firing all of the career people that know better and understand how things are supposed to work and replacing them with loyalists. This is textbook 101. Textbook 101, historically speaking, how authoritarianism happens, right? And so we have got to be vocal. Universities have to stand up, period. You got millions and billions of dollars of endowment money, live through it. This is why you got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
maintain your integrity. Use it
right now. If you want to get it all back by the end of it, because you'll get all of it back and more as a university if you just fucking use all of your endowment now to fight tooth and nail to the end, because the people who you help, their families, the people who see you helping, they will reward you for doing the right fucking thing, because that's what it is right now. That's all it is. It's just the right fucking thing.
We're in the middle of an anti-intellect movement.
Yeah.
It's like a virus that has taken over the country, where all of a sudden your smartest people are belittled by people who literally could not carry the books of these people. I mean, it's so targeted, right? That it's going to create, it's already started actually, the American brain drain. And I don't know why no one's not talking about this. You have Nobel Prize winners who are being courted by China and other countries to leave because they understand that the current academic state is one where you cannot, not only forget express free thought, you cannot think critically. You have no research dollars to continue your work because it's been gutted through grant money, right? We are literally trying to be dumber. And what's blowing my mind, specifically with the military, and again, I'm president for Veterans for Responsible Leadership. I have to talk about this. You don't want your officer corps to be involved in think tanks, strategic thinking groups, all this stuff with other nations within the borders of the United States. You want your officers to be dumb. And then you go and do your sec bro thing where it's like lethality, combat effectiveness, lethality. Okay, all right. Well, here's a question for you, bitch. Operate that nuclear reactor that operates that submarine. You idiot. Mm-hmm. You moron. Because you need to have someone smart enough to do it, because that is the weapons capability. Or someone like me who was a fire control officer and a combat systems officer of an Aegis class destroyer that could literally shoot down satellites. I don't want the dumbest person. You know what I'm saying? My pull-ups ain't going to affect that. And this is the part that they don't understand. Warfare has become more complex. Warfare has become highly intellectual. And it's like 3D chess. And if you think the guy that's got 80 pounds of rucksack gear on this 3-mile ruck is the way that war is going to be won, you're a moron. You're living in the past, Hegseth. You're living in the past.
Like Call of Duty.
Yes. They think it's a glorified game. Mm-hmm. When the strategic aspect of warfare now in the 21st century requires pre-planning. It requires understanding technological developments and how to best implement them. It requires intellectual curiosity to come through and to think of other things. And what they are doing, starting with the service academies, now they're moving to the senior goddamn war colleges, is like, yeah, your PT score matters the most. Okay, great. I'm in the Navy. I can only run 535 feet one way. You know, I just don't understand. They're like this culture, this warrior class culture, when the best warriors in history were intellectuals. You think it's a coincidence Napoleon ran through half of Europe the way he did? Go look at what he studied. Do you think it's a coincidence that World War II was won by the United States? And when you look at not just the commissioning sources of these officers that did it, look at what they did before they got high command, who they studied with, where they went around the world. And we were just lucky to have a president, FDR, who knew them when they were junior officers. He picked Halsey. He put Nimitz over 30 other damn admirals. He jumped them because he saw Nimitz as a commander and was like, that guy understands it. He gets it, right? And Nimitz was a classic intellectual. But we have to go with the Clint Eastwood interpretation of being a warrior. He's got to be white. He's got to have blue eyes, got to have a square jaw. He's got to be able to PT, and he's got to be able to just run through bullets. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
What do you think, from your perspective, that this means for? Okay, I'm the parent of young men. My oldest is about to turn 21, so obviously an impending draft is something that's on their mind. However, I've got a lot of teenagers coming through our house. Ours is the hangout house, and to put this nicely, Gen Z are not the most physically fit specimens.
They are not. They are not.
So what do you think when you're talking about the brain drain? What do you think this is going to mean? Plus the general ethos of Gen Z, which is they're not inclined to go in the military. We're seeing, recruiting levels at all-time lows. So what do you think this means for building an army? Do you think that there's a possibility of a draft? And further, what do you think this means for, let's look at like officer corps 2 years down the road?
Yeah, I think these are great questions, and I've thought about these exact questions. So, number one, let's address the 21-year-old, this, that, and the other. So, I have a daughter that's 21. She's an engineer, speaks 3 languages because she was a military brat. We lived all over. She learned different languages. You would be foaming at the mouth to get her. She's at one of the top engineering schools in this country. But mommy and daddy, both Annapolis graduates, are like, no, not right now. No, because we understand that her skill set will not be valued because they will not get past her appearance. That is the culture that's happening. And the irony of this is, if something pops off where World War III or something similar happens where they will have to draft, the first place they're going to go is to the black and brown communities because that's where they've always gone. That's because the highest propensity to serve in the military have been black and brown people, not the white guys that they want in the forefront. Okay. And so when you look at what's happening, when you look at the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the entire, Joint Chiefs now, white men by design, but those guys ain't the ones that actually have to fight the war. You're going to have to go into Harlem. You're going to have to go into Atlanta. You're going to have to go into Chicago. And then all of a sudden, backpedal faster than Deion Sanders, be like, we need you. We value. Why? Because you're not going to go get Barron Trump. You're not. See what I'm saying? Eric and Don Jr. ain't going to volunteer for a waiver to go serve because they're my age. They had the opportunity. They chose not to. But hey, they, for some reason, are the arbiters of masculinity and what it means to be a warrior, right? Hegseth himself will make sure that his children dodge that thing if he's SecDef and they're old enough. I think his oldest is not quite there yet, but let's play that out, right? It will be the minorities and the poor whites, once again, that will be drafted first, right? And now you want to turn around, and I think it would be fascinating to see them sit there and say, hey, Black America, we need you. After you went out of your way to wipe out our military history, first thing you did in office.
Yeah.
You completely, what I'm saying? Hey, Asian Americans, we're going to wipe out the 44nd, 442 and what they did, but we need you now. Or the intellectuals.
And on top of that, what they're doing now with the invasions of these cities and specifically targeting those communities.
Bingo. You're going to sit there and turn around and tell Latinos, we need you to sign up. And they're going to be like, you deported my mom and my sister.
Right.
Do you think
why would I do that?
Because we're in an authoritarian power grab, do you think they may use it's a draconian measure, but we have to always assume the worst with Trump is that it's basically going to be the option of go into the military or go into a detention center if they continue this route?
I don't,
because they're very, very, and I know that's probably a loaded question, but they are getting very racially biased in the most abhorrent ways, and they're fighting the laws to prevent them from being racially biased while doing it too. And so it's hard to imagine that they won't do something quite so draconian as basically police the shit out of you in apartheid systems.
Well, what they'll find out is what we found out in Vietnam. There's a reason that the United States military went to an all-volunteer force in 72, because of what happened in Vietnam, because we went out of our way to literally draft black people. In the civil rights movement, went and drafted black people. And we were like, this is bullshit. We're not doing it. And you had all the incidences of fragging and this, that, and the other. You had a military that was not capable as it was in World War II, because you had people who were like, why should we go fight for this country when I cannot literally get a sandwich when I go home? Why should I fight for this country when literally I can't even vote for my representative? Because at that time, the voting age was 21. So what'd they do? They went to an all-volunteer force, and they had a constitutional amendment to change the Constitution voting age to 18. Because if you're old enough to die for your country, you should be old enough to vote. This was a cause and effect thing. The problem is, if we are in a situation where this happens now, there may not be an America left, because you have gone out of your way to tell. And here's the thing that I don't think people are focusing on. The amount of civilians that have been kicked out of the DOD that have subject matter expertise to which the Department of Defense relies heavily on. That subject matter expert contractor, that subject matter, GS-14 that knows what the heck going. They're gone. They're gone.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that set up how you get bullets and food to a location that's in an austere region of the world. You forced them out. And now you have, because of Pete Hegseth, going back to him, Donald Trump is personally interviewing 4-star candidates. Let me say that again. He is interviewing 4-star candidates. This is the first time that this has happened in American history, where the president of the United States personally will interview a 4-star candidate and then sign off if that's the person that they want. It is a loyalty test. Do you think, in this age of information and social media, that if I go into a black community here in Atlanta and say, hey, they're going to probably start a draft, your kid should sign up for the military. And yes, President Trump is commander-in-chief, Secretary Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense. You've seen them tell you that minorities and women and anybody who ain't white and male don't matter. And by the way, we don't know how competent your leadership is going to be. It's just a question of how loyal they are to one person. Mother or grandmother is going to sign up for that. I mean, I'm just putting it in very blatant terms of someone who was a recruiter. Why would they sign up for it? You know what I'm saying?
My best friend is married to a guy from Mexico. He is a legal citizen, and their kids obviously are brown kids. So her daughter has been in ROTC all the way through high school and had this just locked on this plan of going in the military. And so she's constantly asking me, what do I think? Do you still think this is a good idea? Do you still think it's a good idea? And my first red flag was when the Marine Corps disbanded the internal MPs. And so when you're a female in the military, the MPs are who you would go to report a sexual assault. So that already was a red flag to me. And I said, well, the Marines are out. She cannot go in the Marines. Right. So she was like, okay, how about the Air Force? Then they put old Pete in, old Raging Pete. And I was like, no, I think the only way this feels like my niece, this is my best friend's daughter. And I said, the only way that she needs to go in the military at this point is after college, get a degree, go in as an officer, and spend those 4 years in college taking self-defense classes, because nobody is going to defend her in these military forces.
I 100%
very real
agree.
Consideration for women. And you look at the positions that women serve in, and women are serving in high-ranking positions in IT, cybersecurity, nuclear department. And these women are vacating because they're not going to risk being sexually assaulted on the job at the frequency that is going to start happening under this regime.
So, and them explaining it away. And here's the thing. Out of all the ones that Hegseth have fired, the fastest were the women. And, the chief of naval operations, the Coast Guard commandant. I mean, we can go down this list. And to me, it says two things. It says, number one, we do not value women. I mean, you saw what he retweeted as far as his former pastor and all this other kind of stuff. We don't value women, period. You're baby makers. That's it. When it's obvious, if you look at any statistical category when it comes to higher education, college, this, that, and the other, women are killing it almost at a 2-to-1 ratio in technical majors, okay? But you're supposed to have the world's most advanced military. You don't have people smart enough to operate, Pete. You're not developing them. You're not developing them. And again, it's this aesthetic. It's the same thing that Ted Cruz did when he retweeted the Russian military before the damn Ukraine war, how tough they look. And they've been getting their butts handed to them to the point where they've had North Korea come in and help fight for them. So this whole, I guess, this idealized version of what they believe American strength is the most archaic. And to be honest, it was never true in the first place. The American military is the first DEI organization of this country out of necessity. Necessity. There were minorities, there were women, there were everybody there trying to just make this thing happen. And now you want to go and whitewash it. Now you want to go tell this other story. You want to honor Confederates. You know what I'm saying? I can go down this list of ridiculousness. And all it's doing is it's hollowing out the force. And the thing is, somebody on this planet is going to call our bluff. People aren't attacking us because they're like, oh, it's America. Someone's going to have the guts to call our bluff. And when they do, if this continues, not only will we not be able to answer the bell, I believe the combination of domestic chaos and international weakness will signal the end of what America is. And it could happen in this lifetime. It could literally happen in this lifetime.
It's hard to think that is not something that's even more pressingly imminent when people are watching us from the outside, that our military is now being scrambled, so to speak, internally.
Yes.
Our FBI agents are walking on the streets of D.C. catching black men smoking marijuana. Where are the FBI agents working on intelligence in regards to terrorism, in regards to that fentanyl that's coming in here? They're all on the streets of D.C. right now, wandering around.
Have you heard one FBI brief on like domestic terrorist groups, white supremacy groups? Have you heard not one since January 20th? Right.
And on top of that, we're now advocating for ICE to have veterans sign up to have some, like, disabled veterans. They're advocating towards disabled fucking veterans to sign up for ICE.
So they have money to live and to keep their benefits. Right. And look at the signing bonuses. $50,000 just to sign. There has never, think about this for a second.
Loan debt. And forgiving student loan debt.
Complete student loan debt forgiveness. $50,000.
They left mine back a couple months ago. I still have my student loan debt. I served in the Army for 4 fucking years. I deployed to Afghanistan for 6 months, and they still couldn't fucking forgive my student loan debt. It was the GI Bill or student loan forgiveness, and I wanted more education, so I chose that. But that's fucking horrendous, and I've been paying on student loans for over 10 years now.
Look, they know. They know how egregious what they're asking American citizens to do. They know that they're establishing a Gestapo, and they know in order for anybody to be part of it, you have to completely overcompensate them. When you have a budget for ICE that is more than the United States Marine Corps, that's a problem. That is a fundamental problem. And when you're saying, like I said, student loan forgiveness, which is huge, $50,000 signing bonus, and then salary starting at $80,000, maybe even $100,000 just by signing up. Right? And that's why these guys are wearing masks. That's why when they're confronted by American citizens, they can't look people in the eye. Have you noticed this? When they get confronted by other American citizens, especially those that are either lawyers that are out there or prior military or prior law enforcement, they can't even look them in the eye. They're like, just stay back, just stay back. They turn their heads. Let me ask you this. Any legitimate police officer that you've seen, have they ever wore a mask? Have they ever had to turn their heads when they're doing their job the way they're supposed to? The answer is no. And they're like, well, we're worried about getting doxxed. Dude, that ain't it. That ain't it at all. If you're doing nothing wrong, you got nothing to worry about. Right? According to them, and that's according to them when they go and grab people, right? And so we are witnessing a police state enforced directly by the chief executive of the United States and implemented by the United States military and other federal officials on domestic soil. It's unprecedented. Even in the Civil War, when Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, they still had a police force in D.C. Let me mind you, D.C. was surrounded by Confederate sympathizers. Maryland was a border state. Virginia was the heart of the Confederacy, and they still had a police force. Think about it. I'm just saying. So those of us who understand history know that this is unprecedented. It's unprecedented. And Stephen Miller, somewhere, who's like moving from safe house to safe house, apparently, or whatever, is the architect of this. And for some reason, they allow this man to run rampant. And so he's the one that wants to deport people of color that are American citizens. He's said it in the past. His rhetoric is now being turned into action, and every citizen should be concerned, because if you think it's just going to be people that look like me or brown or this, that, and the other, trust me, say something they don't like. Say something they don't like. They'll come for you too.
There was a video on the streets of D.C. 2 nights ago of a white guy in khaki shorts and boat shoes and a blue Oxford shirt who was standing on a street corner simply recording one of their interactions. And they turned around and they turned on him, took him down, apprehended him, took him in. And I showed my husband. I was like, that's guys that look like you. That's you and me.
Yep. Yep. And here's the thing. If the Republicans don't pay the price in 2026, which is why we're seeing the movement to restrict mail-in ballots, which, by the way, overwhelmingly disproportionately affects active duty service members. Overwhelmingly. Which is not going to count your vote. You know what I'm saying? If we do not see a switch in 2026, I thoroughly, and I'm not saying this for hyperbolic purposes, I'm not saying this to be dramatic, the United States of America that we know will have ended at the 250th year mark, period. Yep. It's over. It's over. The experiment, because this is what this still is over. Because then there is going to be no check, no balance to anything. And those who are at the top, the congressional members, the Supreme Court of the United States, those people in that top 1% will then live in fear of that proletariat that the communists talked about decades ago, because we created it. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, well, you do all you can. You speak up for it. Veterans. And you notice you see more generals and admirals starting to speak up, because they're like, this is
not good.
This is not good at all. They're starting to speak up. And, they raided John Bolton of all people. They raid his house. They raided Comey. They raided Brennan. It's mind-boggling, because these jokers were conservatives. Classic conservatives. But it doesn't matter, because Trump is like, you're an enemy, and the Department of Justice works for me. I'm old enough to remember when the Department of Justice purposely never spoke to the president. When Clinton was in office getting investigated, couldn't speak to him. Couldn't do any of that, right? Department of Justice is supposed to be completely independent. That's why the Senate confirmation of whoever the Attorney General is so damn important. To me, it's the most important confirmation outside of Secretary of Defense that they do. It's that. But hey, Bondi barely passed. Hegseth barely passed, because the sycophants in the Senate were like, we have to support Emperor Trump. And you are now seeing a complete degradation of American rights. There is not one conservative that can look me in the eye and say that Americans' rights are at the same level that they were a year ago. Can't do it. They don't want to do it, because they'll be like, well, it should have been that way. No. Either you're moving forward or you're moving backwards. There is no in between. What are we witnessing? In America, if you're cool with it, that's cool. It's, if you're a woman, let me put it this way. My daughter has less rights than my mother has at the same age.
So, and with this, because we're over the top of the hour, and I want to respect your time, Bobby, with all of this, and I don't want to keep you too long. I'd love to have this conversation. I mean, we could probably talk for hours and hours at this point. Is one of the, like you were talking about it, is they're not conservative anymore. And they haven't been for a long time. Is Trump is not a conservative. It's a regressive party. It's a regressive populist party that is pulling us backwards, on purpose backwards.
Yes.
And I know you don't ascribe yourself as a liberal. You don't ascribe yourself at this point probably as a conservative. You are an American. At least that's what I'm going to ascribe you as. You're an American, and you're a patriot who is fucking pissed off and has a lot of experience in these areas, and knows what you're talking about. What is the message that you can leave everyone with today that is the most important things that they can do today and then continue doing tomorrow?
A couple of things. Number one, the people that you deal with in your day-to-day lives, I guarantee everybody on this live stream has people who have put their head in the sand. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to be about it. It's scary, blah, blah, blah. Number one, you need to tell those people, you got to pick a side. Damn it, you don't have the luxury anymore to keep your head in the sand, because this whole system, right, that the founding fathers put together, originally designed for white landowning men, but has expanded to form what they call that more perfect union, requires participation of its citizens. Okay? Requires it. That means you have to sit there and read, go find unbiased sources. I highly recommend foreign ones if you want to know what's going on here, right? But you got to get involved. You cannot sit on the sideline mentally first and say, it doesn't matter to me, because it will. It's going to hit you in the pocketbook. It's going to hit your kids as far as the options that they have to live their lives moving forward. It's going to hit you some way, somehow in this next year. That's number one. Number two, go to something local. I'm not asking you to go to your state capitals. I'm asking you to go to your city council, your county meetings. Make a point to go to one meeting a month, just one. Show up and learn what is happening in your neck of the woods, because these decisions that are happening at the very top are trickling down to Main Street USA. And all of a sudden, when the Department of Education goes away and there's no funding for your son's IEP in their school because they're having learning difficulties, you're going to wonder, why is that? Well, the big, beautiful bill killed it. That's why. That's why. And now your school board has to deal with that. Right? You need to know how that's going to happen. And then finally, if you do not contact your Congress people at least monthly, like it's a bill, then you are saying to yourself, I want what's happening to happen. Because they're not feeling the pressure until very recently. Very recently. And as the midterms start to kick in here, you're going to see them. This is what you're going to see, in my humble opinion. You're going to see Republicans start to find off-ramps where they look like they're more moderate than the people that passed that bill. Because political survival is the number one thing that they fight for. It's the ease. Because to me, there's no other job in America that you get paid the amount of money to have something so simple. Right? So they're going to start looking at survival mode. The 2025 elections that are happening in November that no one's talking about, these governor's races, will be epic in telling you where the country's going. Virginia, New Jersey in particular. Virginia's a swing state. New Jersey is a state that has a high, pretty well to do population money-wise and stuff like that. If they go Democrat, which I think they will, and it will be two women elected as governors, stand by for the political fallout. If the mayor race in New York goes the way it looks like it's going, stand by for the political fallout. You're going to have Republicans looking around like, did we push too far? The answer is hell yes, you did.
Yeah.
Hell yes, you did.
Good. Hell fucking yeah.
And the redistricting that you did in Texas, to get your, quote, 5 seats. I'm a political science major out of Naval Academy. Understand, by doing that, you put 10 seats in Texas in play. They're no longer solidly Republican. Now they're what ifs to get those 5 seats back. And now California and Maryland and Illinois are like, game on, sons of bitches. Game on. We will do the same thing. You don't have enough people. You don't. Because your policies are not popular. The polling shows you this. The polling of the president shows you this. The thing that he's supposed to be great at, immigration and the economy. The polling shows you the trend. America has reached the stop, and they're going to swing back the other way. The question is, will it be strong enough to undo this damage before it's permanent? And if you, as an American citizen, if you do not talk to your local, state, and federal officials that you personally vote for, in my mind, you are complicit in this happening.
And I'm going to interject right here for anybody who needs a quick, easy tool to do that. 5calls.org. You just plug in your local zip code. It gives you your reps, their contact information, and even scripts based on whatever topic you're passionate about. So you can literally read a script to them. It requires almost no thought, and you can do it every day.
Yep. I mean, if you want to save your democracy, you got to get involved. You can't sit on the bench. You got to get in the game.
Yeah.
That's simple.
And I think that's a great stopping point on this, but also is a point that Chris Goldsmith makes and is one that I've started to make, and is what is the important thing about what we're doing right here, right now, is your entry point to civics and your entry point to saving this country, because that's what you want to do right now. If you're here listening to this, you at least care enough to think that you might want to save this country, even if you're not in this country. This is your entry point into civics. Share, like, restack, follow, help every single one of us become at least a free subscriber for every single one of us. Follow on all of our networks too: Valor Media Network, Lincoln Square Media, Banner and Backbone, on Melissa's channel with Counter Story Media, where she highlights veteran voices and veteran stories. Veterans are leading the charge right now, as it should be, because we've served before and we're serving again. It's service after service. And everybody right now, your entry point to civics is free. This is it right now. The next step is continuing to do this, but don't do it alone. Pull in friends. And then, like Bobby said, like Melissa said, make calls. We will post the links to the site, to 5calls.org, to runforsomething.net, to Bobby's pages, to Veterans Fighting Fascism, to Veterans for Responsible Leadership, to all of the organizations that we care about and know are appropriate and good, and where you can spend your time to get good resources from for engagement. That's where we want to send you. So big one, follow Bobby Jones on everywhere he's at. It's Navshad. Am I?
Yep. I put it in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Follow him, subscribe to him, get on YouTube, do the same, do for Valor Media Network. Follow Vote Vets, follow the veteran organizations that are putting themselves out there to get these messages out for everybody to have things that they can actively do. But step one, after today, after this, call your representative. Call your senator. It's that easy. It takes you 2 minutes. They're probably not even going to answer. You're going to get their voicemail. You might get one of their
staffers.
Staffers. If you do, leave the message and be done. 5 minutes. That's it. That's all you have to do. And then you're in, and then do it again. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Bobby, do you have any last words before I close?
No, thanks. Thank you for having me, both to you, Nick, and to Melissa. It's always good to talk to veterans. I think we've earned a different perspective in how this is going, and it's up to us to start sharing it. We've been trained not to really be vocal because we try to stay out of it, but we took an oath, and right now, domestically, the Constitution's under attack, in my opinion.
Yes.
So, here's what it is.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. This has been fantastic. Very informative. So I hope I get to do a live with you again. This has been a good time.
No, hey, just let me know when y'all want me back, and I will move my schedule to do so.
Don't worry, Bobby. We will definitely have you back. I have some shows that I'd love to get lined up on our Banner and Backbone network with you as well. And have Melissa over there and some of our other vets maybe get involved in a larger stream possibly, and start really getting a message out there for everyone. So thank you. Thank you again, Bobby, for accepting my invite for a second time. Really fun having you. The audience loves you. And I look forward to our next conversation. As I always say at the end of the shows, everyone, let's stop being sick of this shit and let's start doing this shit. So thanks, y'all. And have a great day. Let's go defend America.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.